Hello and welcome to part 4 of the Storywriting Social with me, Simon Hall. So, getting on with business in our journey through the alphabet, and the letter we come to today is the letter L. Now, I shall do my usual guessing game and check whether you can guess what it is, but I doubt you'll be able to because this really is cryptic and a bit mangled, really, to be frank. I'll give you this little clue. Feel free to pause if you want to and have a guess. Otherwise, I shall tell you, and the answer is leeway. L stands for leeway. Now, what do I mean by leeway? And yes, it was a bit mangled. I'm sorry about that. It's often said that the best writing works when the author and the reader actually work together. So the author does some work, but the reader has to do some work as well. And for me, what leeway is about is giving the reader enough of a push for their imagination to start it working and sparking and doing the amazing things it does, but not saying too much, not caging it, not being prescriptive. So that is what leeway is about. It's not writing too much, not being prescriptive, but it's writing enough to get the imagination going. And let me give you some examples. And here, for the first time in this entire series, and probably the last, I'm going to be literary and quote you a poem. One of my favorite poems, A.E. Housman. Look at this poem and let's explore what goes on here. Oh, who is that young sinner with the handcuffs on his wrists? And what has he been after that they groan and shake their fists? And wherefore is he wearing such a conscience-stricken air? Oh, they're taking him to prison for the colour of his hair. 'Tis a shame to human nature, such a head of hair as his. In the good old time, 'twas hanging for the colour that it is. Though hanging isn't bad enough, and flaying would be fair for the nameless and abominable colour of his hair. Oh, a deal of pains he's taken, and a pretty price he's paid to hide his poll, or dye it of a mentionable shade. But they pulled the beggar's hat off for the world to see and stare, and they're hailing him to justice for the colour of his hair. Question for you. What colour's his hair? Have a think about it for a sec. Pause if you like. What colour is his hair? Well, the answer is, of course, that Housman never tells us. We don't actually know what he thinks. But I had lots and lots of answers when I said that. Some people, quite a few people said it was red, coppery hair. Others said very white, albino type hair. Some said jet black. But that is the glory of leeway. Rather than Housman telling us what colour his hair is, he pushes the imagination by sparking it. So what has he done with his hair that's so bad? What's wrong with it that they want to take him to prison for it? But he never actually tells us what it is. And that's what leeway is about. And I'll give you another example or two here. It's often used in songwriting. Some of the best songwriters are really good at this. This is Paul Simon, who's a great favourite of mine. I'll give you a couple of examples he uses. And of course, with songwriting, you have so few words. Sometimes leeway can be a very powerful tool. The mama pajama rolled out of bed and she ran to the police station. When the papa found out, he began to shout and he started the investigation. It's against the law. It was against the law. What the mama saw, it was against the law. The mama looked down and spit on the ground. Every name, my name gets mentioned. The papa said, oh, if I get that boy, I'm going to stick him in the house of detention. I think time my name gets mentioned. Sorry about the slip. So what's the crime? Again, have a pause if you want to think about it. But what's the crime? Nothing good, clearly. Serious stuff. But Paul Simon never tells us. He leaves it to the imagination. Lets us try and work it out for ourselves. And another Paul Simon one, I love this. The first thing I remember, I was lying in my bed. I couldn't have been no more than 1 or 2. I remember there's a radio coming from the room next door, and my mother laughed, the way some ladies do. What's that laugh like? Again, pause if you want to think about it. And when we did this as an exercise, got lots and lots of different answers from Sid James carry-on film type belly laughs, from gentle, chuckly, slightly nervous laughs. But of course, the point is, Paul Simon never tells us. He never tells us what the laugh was like. He just leaves it to the imagination. So that is the beauty of leeway, giving the imagination free rein. And the imagination is such a wonderful thing. Why would we want to cage it? So one of the great tricks of writing is to get the author and the reader to work together, and it's much more fulfilling that way. That is leeway. So we're doing a few exercises. This exercise, when we did it live, went down really, really well. In fact, that's why there are only 2 letters we're going to get through today, because so many people wanted to chip in their idea. So an exercise for you. Write down a paragraph about your pet hate, your biggest hate of modern life, but do it without telling us what it is. Just give us a sense of the effect it has on you, on others around you, perhaps on society. Just give us a sense without actually saying what it is. And then when you've written it down, see if there's anyone else around you, if you want to share it with anyone else, see if they can guess it. And this is our little exercise for today. So have a pause, think about that. Now, moving on, I'll talk about my pet hate briefly, because just an hour or two before I gave this session live on Thursday evening, I saw something which lots of other people didn't see in central Cambridge. I loved it. They were walking on by, they missed it. And they missed it because they were indulging in my pet hate. This is what I saw. Wonderful. A couple of ducks out for a stroll around King's College. Now, that is a really busy part of Cambridge, probably one of the busiest. There would never normally be a couple of ducks wandering along there. But of course, with the streets so quiet, they've got free rein. And I saw that, and I took that lovely photograph, which made me chuckle and still does. But I saw it because I was walking along, looking around, not doing what far too many people do in my humble view, which is face down in phone. Oh, yeah. Phone snubbing, or phubbing, as it's known. And that side of the world, or the people around them. I saw that, and I got that photograph, and I would have missed that if I'd have face down in the phone. So that's my pet hate. That's just one way of alluding to it. So that's L, leeway. Very subtle art, one of the most difficult to explain in the writing world, and very, very difficult to get the hang of, because your instinct is to say what you're thinking, what you're feeling. But actually, leaving space for the imagination can be very powerful. So on to our next letter, and it's M. And any guesses what M might be? And again, feel free to pause if you want to have a guess. This is another slightly cryptic one, slightly odd, so I'll give you a clue. Any guesses now? Have a think. M is memorability, making your characters memorable. I want to talk specifically about characters here because they're so very, very important in writing. And if you can make them memorable, if you can make them stick in the public minds, that can really help you in terms of getting some traction, making an impact with your writing. And one way of making characters memorable is to give them quirks. They can be quirks in terms of their appearance, things they wear, or indeed physical quirks. So let me give you a little quiz to illustrate this. For example, what character became famous for this physical quirk? Get it? Feel free to pause, although I don't think you need to. Yes, of course, that's Mr. Spock, Dr. Spock from Star Trek, known for his Vulcan ears. Interesting quirk, and it sets him out. It's distinctive, makes him memorable. What about this one? A quirk of appearance again, the moustache. Who's that? Again, pause if you need to, have a think. Hercule Poirot, Belgian detective. And that's an interesting one because the moustache, you may be able to see it in his character, but it alludes to his deeper self and how very precise, how very perfecting he is to get that absolutely right. And that reflects him and his attitude to criminality and detective work, always wanting to get to the truth, the detail of the matter. What about this one? Very easy one. Don't think you'll need to pause that one. Yes, of course, that's Harry Potter and the lightning scar on his forehead, which marks him out as the chosen one, something special, a little quirk that makes him distinctive and memorable. Now, this is a real-life example. Who became very famous for her handbag? In fact, it became a verb, didn't it? Handbagging other world leaders. There's a clue for you there. Yes, of course, Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher's handbag became famous and synonymous with the character in terms of what she would do, handbagging other world leaders. Fictional character this time. Recognize that? Pause if you want to have a think. Yeah, that's Cupid. Cupid and the bow, the arrow of love. And again, helps it stick in the popular imagination to become absolutely iconic. Who's this? Who's this? I could relate to this guy, of course, if I could. If only I could, yeah. Couple of quirks there, I suppose. The drink, vodka martini, shaken not stirred. Yeah, of course, it's James Bond. But also the dinner jacket, that has become well associated with the character as well. And finally, this one of my absolute favorites. Anyone recognize that? Not the Blues Brothers, as someone said. No? Pause if you want to. That's Walter White. Walter White from Breaking Bad. Fantastic character. And really interesting the way that alludes to his deeper character as well, the black hat and the shades, because of course he becomes darker as the series goes on, more and more unpleasant, more and more ruthless, more and more evil. So that's quirks. You can have quirks of appearance, physical appearance, quirks, props in terms of what people carry or what they wear. And that can help. And if you're going to use them sparingly. Don't give every single character a quirk, because that can be too much. But just one or two here or there for main characters can really help make them distinctive, make them memorable. Here's something else which can help in terms of memorability. Why am I showing you a picture of a rose? I must be feeling literary today. Think Shakespeare and great Shakespearean quotations. Any ideas? A rose by any other name is still as sweet. What's in a name? So what's in a name? Names can be very useful in making characters distinctive and memorable too, and they become associated with certain traits of character. For example, what sort of qualities of characters it conjure up when I give you these characters? Hannibal Lecter. Ooh, yes, not altogether pleasant ones, eh? But also very culinary, very intellectual, a great appreciator of life, although somewhat of a dark character. I think you'll agree. Lady Chatterley. What do you associate with Lady Chatterley? Yeah, of course. It's the, I suppose it's the upper class, and then perhaps not being quite as posh as she might seem, and all the traits that go with Lady Chatterley become synonymous with the character, doesn't it? What about this one? Jay Gatsby, Great Gatsby. What about that? Yeah, maybe a bit spoilt, flighty, well off, thinks he can have anything, was born into it. Yeah, again, becomes synonymous with the character, but full of hope as well. Full of hope with it. Ebenezer Scrooge. Isn't that great how that character has entered the common parlance? We use the word Scrooge. So again, that can help become memorable for a character. Holly Golightly. Isn't that beautiful? Breakfast at Tiffany's. So you've got the girl who's a bit of a good time girl. She's a bit flighty. She hops around here and there, enjoying the best of life. And how the name represents that, and has come to do so as well. Atticus Finch. Isn't that great? Atticus Finch. That's a really good, upright, moral, upstanding, rectitude, doing the right thing type name. And finally, Veruca Salt. Oh, I can feel you turning away. Yeah, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, Veruca Salt, spoiled brat. And again, the names seem somehow to reflect it. So sometimes choosing your names carefully, and they can reflect the sort of character you're writing about. And that can really help you make a mark with your writing. It can help to make it memorable. So this is the final letter of this little recap. And the exercise for you here is for a character. Shall we say a character who is a doctor? And I don't mind if it's a man or a woman, older or younger, where they're from. Find a name and a quirk for a doctor who is going to save us from coronavirus. Come up with a cure. So man, woman, young, old. This is a doctor who is going to save us from coronavirus. What sort of name might work in conjuring up the sort of character you're looking for here? And what sort of quirk might he or she have? Something of appearance, something they carry, a prop perhaps, a mannerism, something they wear. Have a think about that. So that is the end of this recap in the Storywriting Social. That was part 4. So we looked at L, leeway, the writer and the reader working together. It's always the most satisfying way. And then M, memorability, how to help your characters be memorable in terms of their name, as here, but also quirks, little quirks of what they're like, what they look like, what they wear, what they carry, their clothes. So thank you for listening to that. I hope to see you next week for part 5 of the Storywriting Social, 7:30 on Thursday nights. But for now, goodbye.